Today I interview movie magician, director Thomas Smith, who turned the interest and excitement around being in Mystery Science Theater 3000 into a franchise of Demon Squad 2. But the story behind making this film is so fascinating, so interesting, you're going to love it. Let's get into talking to Thomas now. And I had a little Prime Video on there then because that's where I bought it from, and you can get it in the UK on Prime Video right now. Thomas, welcome. It's so good to see you. Writer, director of Demon Squad, Tooth and Claw. I called it Demon Squad 2 in the intro, and I was like, no. But yeah, Tooth and Claw. It's an absolute pleasure to see you again, my friend. It's been a while, and we're here. We made it. We've got Tooth and Claw.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I love that intro. That was very cool. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, it's a mouthful. I still around here, I'm like Demon Squad 2, or we've been doing the Mission Impossible thing where it's DS2. It's just like when we get really lazy or tired. So it's
DS2.
As long as someone's talking about it, that's cool.
Yeah. And I think as well, like it serves the film well for people who maybe go, oh, I'll give this film a go. If it doesn't have a 2 in it, they might watch this one first and then go to the second one. Because yes, this is a universe, and we know Nick and we know all the characters from the other Demon Squad film. But I've watched it twice now, and you could start with this film and it wouldn't be like, oh, what is he talking about? Where does that, what reference is this and that? There's a few little things, but nothing enough to make you feel you've missed something.
Yeah, and we got stuck with the Demon Squad title back in the day with the first one from the distributor, because we had the different it was Full Moon Inc. originally, and so we knew we had to kind of keep that, but we didn't really want to be married to it, like give it some distance. So the subtitle kind of makes that work, and so we thought about different ways. I think we even did like a poll at some point with some people, like, what do you think? Do we do the whatever the title is, a Demon Squad story, kind of like what Star Wars things did with their Star Wars spinoffs, or like Knives Out with their Knives Out mystery? And so we just kind of leaned into having a cool subtitle and playing it up real big.
Yeah, and I mean, like Night Hunters as well, for the first film is a great title. It's sometimes tricky, isn't it? I think it's probably one of not the hardest thing, but it's a tricky thing sometimes to settle on. And I guess most people know of Demon Squad now because they've seen that more. So yeah, it does totally make sense. And I want to kind of go back to the original one, just to kind of give people a little bit of background, if that's okay.
Sure.
The original, what I liked about it was the noir side of it, the detective, the old school detective stories, but also a monster movie feel. Was that something that was the inspiration at the beginning, or was it just to kind of have a big sort of jambalaya of different things?
Yeah, it was it was trying to get into that sort of detective mode, but while still making a monster movie. We were just trying to find a different way in, other than just someone running and screaming from a creature. And so it kind of pulled from, X-Files and Kolchak. Kolchak is
so
Kolchak from the Night Stalkers. I love Darren McGavin as Kolchak, and occasionally I'll just kind of go back and revisit those episodes just because they're so fun, and they're so, you can see where X-Files got its inspiration, but it's tongue in cheek, but it can also be serious. It can be funny. It can be scary. And that's kind of where we are aiming for, where you've got this sort of likable protagonist who's also a bit of a jerk with bad fashion sense. And he's always kind of down on his luck and getting roped into all these weird stories and meeting colorful characters. And so that's kind of what the aim was, where it could still be kind of this fun PG-13 gateway horror, because I don't think there's enough of that anymore.
Yeah, the fun side of the adventurous side of horror, and like like you say, like almost like a Monster Squad, or
exactly,
like that kind of
squad,
thing. Yeah.
And also I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. So there's always some some part of me that subconsciously starts veering into this, the hero gets their butt kicked and somehow they're scrappy enough to manage to pull it out. So there's always something that kind of goes back to that as well.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's not something you see a lot of, that kind of humorous side of, like getting beaten up so much and still kind of like spitting blood out and then having a wise crack. I recently watched Shoot 'em Up, and I got, I was just thinking, oh man, people were not ready for this. Like, it was a kind of at the time, it was a very still kind of quite modern, but like that wisecrack, so dry, but like, but the hero is kind of flawed, and there's some silly moments there as well. And I get that. I can feel that with Nick as well. He's such a specific kind of character. Did you kind of sketch out this idea of like him being a private investigator, but of a different type, right from the beginning? Was that the hook?
Yeah, he was actually kind of created for a different script that didn't get made. It was a supporting character that I was like, if this works out, I'm going to spin him off and do his own thing. And so we just ended up skipping that whole thing and just start with him. And so we kind of had this, I think the original draft, he was a lot more hard-edged. It was like he was always drinking, always smoking, chain smoking, a little too Constantine in that that thing. And so I think in the original script he was still doing some of that, but Christian, the actor that plays Nick, he was like, I don't feel comfortable smoking on screen in front of kids. Just thinking of kids, which is fair. And so he came up with he's a recovering smoker, so he's always chewing gum, and so and that worked. It was different, I think. And I think he almost maybe regretted that by the time the movie was filmed shooting, because it was packs and packs of like spearmint 5 gum, I think, that we had. So for this one, he decided, I think we all decided beforehand, we're just going to drop the gum thing. And so there was one scene at the beginning where he's like chewing gum and spits it out, and you never see it for the rest of the movie. So it's like acknowledged, but he was like, I'm not having a mouth of spearmint again for like 3 months or whatever it was.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I guess that's quite hard sound editing as well sometimes, if you get the smacking of if he happens to say
what is he chewing here? What is he? So
that's that, like I'd imagine that's interesting, because I was going to ask you that, like, how much, because you've got your usual collaborators, how much this time did people bring a little bit of something to their characters? They feel they know them really well because they played them before. And what jumped into my mind was, I'm so out of touch with things like the Marvel stuff at the moment, but I've been watching a bit of Wonder Man, and I really enjoyed it. And what I liked the most was the sort of the intensity of a lead character, where he's adding things to different. And I wonder, I know I'm not saying it was like that, but because that was like for heightened for comedic effect, but I imagine that's more comfortable when you know the people you're working with.
You would be surprised. I've had people that just don't really know them very well. This is like the first thing, and they'll be like, I think my person was this. What's their socioeconomic background? I'm like, huh? We didn't even go that far into it, and so we, I'm always open to ideas and explorations and everything, but there's a line there where it's like, this is ridiculous. This is too much. Let's not go this far in the weeds. But like Christian and Aaron, they were back for this one, and Amir was back for this one. So I think they felt pretty comfortable. And then we knew when we were writing their voices a little more this time. But they still brought, when they would see a line, they'd be like, oh, this doesn't sound right. And then maybe make a change, and we'd approve it and go about it. So there were things like that where they were bringing kind of their own experience to it, and then sometimes where there's a difference between Nick, between the first one and this one, where he's in this one, he's a little more easygoing in a few ways. So at the beginning of filming, I know I had to give Christian some direction to like maybe not as intense, you know. And after I gave him that note, I think it clicked, and he had him figured out for this go around. So it was, yeah, we were just trying to ease up on some of the intensity and make him a little bit more a little more mellow, I think, because it's been 10 years since we filmed the first movie. We've all mellowed a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And
People,
like,
people evolve, and yeah.
Off-screen totally. Character progression, I guess, you know. But yeah, they kind of had some of their own ideas in there. And I kind of trust them and rely on them to do that and know their character.
Yeah, that's really great to hear as well. Like that idea, you know, obviously you could go this way, let's make it exactly the same, but a lot of time has passed. It shows your evolution as a filmmaker as well. There's visually it's very different. Like, you know, you can see, obviously I guess you've got more tools at your disposal, but sometimes that can be a challenge in itself. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about that as we go along, but you know, that you can, for me, it felt a more realized world. Like I the occult side, the noir side, the creature feature side, all kind of knitted together really well. The effects were really cool. The nice balance of practical and VFX. Really enjoyed that side of it. I was gonna say that's not a question. But do you think that like your sort of, as they say, sandbox expanded, and that was a challenge within itself, like making this one?
You know, we had a tiny bit more money. I think the original we made for like 20 grand, and this one maybe 25 after the Kickstarter took their fee, and we had to do the, you know, the rewards and all of that. So we had a little bit money, and unfortunately in that decade, inflation, so everything's more expensive. So we still had some of the same limitations, but technology has also progressed a lot in 10 years. So I mean, we shot 4K instead of 1080p. We had some nicer lenses, a nicer camera that we rented. So yes, tools, we had greater access to tools. They're a little bit more affordable now. And then we also tried to kind of rein in some of the big spends on like visual effects and makeup effects. That's why we've got just a handful of creatures, and also why part of the plot is that Nick's magic isn't working as well. So we didn't have to rely on doing all these big magic spells and things that required VFX. There were a couple, but that also saved with the budget. And then we also didn't have, you know, a lot of crazy locations. So yeah, it's a mix of things. It's a mix of having just a tiny bit more money, and technology really taking a huge step forward in a decade. And even the lights. I remember in the first one we had lights that were, you know, big panels, and you had to lug them around, put them on a C-stand, and sandbag them down. And we still had some of those, but I mean, they're like, you know, note card size, or you can just clip them onto the underside of the car or something, you know, or magnetically, you know. So it saved time too. So it's just a lot of small things that kind of come together in that decade of advancement.
Did you imagine when you made the first one that this would be a continuing series? Were you like, you know, or did you just see it as a standalone? Because I know you said to me before last time we spoke, you were like, you quite like moving on to the next thing and having lots of different ideas. But was this one that was a bit different, where you were like, there's so much scope?
I had hoped, you know, and it took the MST3K thing to give it enough attention to warrant it. So I had hoped, at least even just from perspective of maybe doing some shorts, that sort of thing. But then, you know, when it comes down to it, there's so many other ideas to try to explore, or if you're going to spend the money, you may as well do something different. But then also I really like hanging out with this group of people that we work with on these shoots. So it's kind of an excuse to get the band back together. And we're all comfortable enough to know what we're doing, what our roles are. So it's usually less work and more just kind of hanging out. It's still high stress and we're rushing around and all this, but yeah, it was something that I had hoped for. I had ideas, and I've got an idea for a third one, and then like like a web series for some scripts for episodes for web series. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I think as well, you were saying about like knowing each other and it's an excuse to hang out together. That comes across because then you get more of a naturalistic like gang that it comes across. And I think if you've got people that kind of feel a little bit outside of that, it comes across on screen no matter what you do. Kind of think of famous horror collaborators. I think we spoke about them before, like John Carpenter and his group of friends, and Argento and his group of friends, and they're all got a common goal, but they're all bringing a little bit of something to it. And I think if you weren't comfortable enough to kind of have maybe sometimes say, no, well, what about this? What about that? And kind of all throw your ideas in there as well, or equally have your own skill sets. It really helps. So even though it does seem sometimes like you go, oh, well, why do they work with those people? The reason is because, yes, it is fun, but also it feels like great alchemy. It feels really like it comes across on the screen. And I think that comes across with the humor, particularly in Demon Squad. There's natural rhythms there.
There is. And there's also a lot of trust because I know what Christian can do. I know what Aaron can do. They know I'm not going to ask them to do anything dangerous or stupid that's going to embarrass them or anything like that. So even, when we're doing these visual effects fights or something where it's on a green screen, or I'm having to have them stand on a stool that's covered in green screen with the green screen behind them. So it looks like they're, if someone's falling or what have you, they know we're going to make it work. And if it's someone else that doesn't know us, they'll be like, what am I doing? What are you guys, what is this? Because, with the indie films, we're always struggling to get by and to pull off some of these shots and some of these sequences. So, we go about them the best we can. So that trust makes things a little bit easier for all of us.
Oh, totally. And I don't want to give too much away about the movie because I do want people to go and explore and enjoy like I did. I wouldn't have liked somebody telling me, but we can skirt around some stuff and kind of give people a little bit of a taste. Obviously, from the trailer, there's a few elements that we've seen. The universe has expanded a little bit here. There's a few different themes that weren't touched upon at all in the first one. I like the larger conspiracy element of it because that doesn't, you don't see that a lot in occult films really these days. I mean, you maybe see it in folk horror, like say a Community where everyone's kind of in on it except for the interloper. But I really like that element. Was it enjoyable for you to have this conspiracy element, politicians and conspiracies and behind closed doors things? Was that a nice way of you trying something a little bit different?
Yeah, and I think maybe subconsciously when writing, maybe subconsciously reacting to the news, and it just feels like the biggest threat I fear right now is other people. Not, a monster or a creature or something. And that a lot of times, these creatures that are in movies, they're animals. They're not out trying to hurt anyone. You're just either impeding on their land or you killed their baby or something, so it's kind of a more sympathetic look at that world that, they may look like monsters, but they've got families and lives and, all this. So, so it's just something that I kind of wanted to explore.
I like that as an idea, that it's a kind of subtle way of of just encouraging people to be more understanding and
Mhm.
tolerant. Like, as a general theme, like you say, at the moment, that's a good thing, because we are sometimes in our own little echo chambers hearing the same things over and over again. And just to kind of know someone and get to know someone different and understand someone different stops a lot of the problems that we have. And yeah, like, what's more different than some of these characters that pop up in your movies? And I'm a yeah, and the animal side of things. I'm always nervous when I see dogs on screen. I think I was talking to you. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier on, about I was recently watching Shoot 'Em Up, and there's a line in it where she goes, shoot the dog," and then Giamatti's sending the dog to go and get them, and she goes, "Shoot the dog," and he goes, "No," and she goes, "Why?" And he goes, "I like dogs."
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, yes, this is a film for me. So I'm
yeah.
always a bit on tenterhooks. Luckily, there is no dog peril in your film, so I was able
Yeah,
to watch
yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah. Anytime there's a new John Wick movie, I get nervous.
Me too.
Is
Me
there a dog
too.
in it? How's it do?
Yeah, the first one's the hardest to get
Yeah.
through. Yeah, definitely in that, and then you're like, okay, he's gonna protect his doggy all the way through the series now.
And
Um,
the
yeah.
kind of really the other thing kind of related to some of those themes was there's a lot of themes of gentrification to like the downtown city area, and that just kind of stemmed from they're always it seems like I'm gonna get in trouble with like locals, but downtown Mobile is always building new areas, gentrifying things, but it's always like these really expensive lofts. And I'm always like, who's living there? Because it never seems like
Yeah.
anyone's there, or they get changed into something else or whatever. And so that was just kind of maybe even just a local in joke to me, at least, that, we're going to gentrify all of this stuff, but it's just going to be luxury lofts that no one could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I read an article about Jason Lee's camera shop the other day, and I was like, I don't know if it's still going, but like this idea of like people being open all the time, and like maybe having one or two customers coming with the highest end antique cameras. Like, you'd have to be a super rich
Yeah.
actor who's got millions to be able to do that, just as a little bit of a fun place to hang out. Yeah, who are these places for?
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, and again, it's very subtle in your film. It's not like you're hitting people over the head with big themes. They're just subtle commentary on things that sort of you've noticed, and I think that helps build a world, doesn't it? Was there something from the world building of the first film that you wish you'd done that you did in this one, that you kind of were ticking off in your head, going, "Oh, I want to make sure I do that in this one"?
I think, let's see. Honestly, I think from the first one, kind of wanted to explore more of Nick's background. So that's what we kind of mentioned with Hank coming in this movie, kind of fills some of that gap in about him going to the Ministry of Parascience and kind of explaining what that was. And so I think Hank, that addition of that character, adds an extra layer of backstory and depth to Moon that was kind of lacking before. I think there was maybe just like a one-off line in the first one mentioning something about that. But this one, I think there's a little bit more, and Hank brings a lot to kind of flesh out Nick's backstory as well a little bit.
Yeah, the Hank character. That I don't want to spoil anything, but because we're used to a kind of two characters kind of sidekicking each other, to have Hank there, that throws a little spanner in the works for their relationship. There's a little bit of jealousy, even though they would say there isn't.
Yeah, and it also made it a little bit more difficult to write, because it's like you're writing this scene, and it's like, well, this would kind of be a Daisy action or a Daisy line, but we need to give it to Hank because they're kind of filling a similar role, and you got to create some of that tension there. But so it made writing their scenes together a little bit more a little bit more of a how are we going to make this work so it's not like too redundant, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I thought those scenes were really good fun. I enjoyed those very much, and like I think that there's a playful tone to some of the dialogues, like the banter, and we talked a bit about that before, the Indiana Jones
Mm,
sort of style, banter between characters. That, and like I think back to films like *Romancing the Stone* and all that.
mhm,
It's something that people find really hard to either even attempt or pull off these days. And I don't like to do it, but like I watched the Anaconda, the recent
mm,
Anaconda film, and I was really
mm.
excited to watch it. But like the considering the people involved in it, the writing let it down. There wasn't the spark, there wasn't the banter that you got.
Yeah,
When you,
I was looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet, but that's kind of what I
oh,
was
sorry.
hearing too, that a lot of the writing just kind of let it down. And it is strange that we can't get back to I mean, I guess Ghostbusters is probably like the prime example where you've got,
Mm,
you got this great idea and the script is strong and you've got the talent in front of the camera that really brings their own thing to it. And it all comes together, and there's just, I don't know why. I don't know if it's maybe egos or something or what, but it's,
possibly, yeah, yeah.
um,
Maybe some people don't want to look or have somebody get the upper hand, or maybe it's writing by committee and making
mhm,
sure that everything's in there to the point
four
where
quadrant.
nothing's in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's very kind of sanitized. It's funny because we had that period of time after the big comedy boom of like in the first Anchorman and things like that, where
Mhm.
they were like, these guys are so funny, we don't even have to write anything, they can just improvise everything. And it turns out no, they couldn't, because it wasn't funny
No.
for the later ones. But like it's finding that balance where we go, we've got this great cast, but we've also got this wonderful you know wonderful spark between in the writing.
Mhm.
So like that playful tone I really enjoyed in this film. Do you think that's just a combination of the writing and the actors, you have to have both?
Yeah, I think so. Because they, you're giving them the joke or the punchline, and they've got to have enough of themselves. They have to have enough of a sense of humor or enough of a personality themselves to be able to interpret that line and make it their own, and make sure it lands, and be okay looking foolish. Um, and so I think it's a mix of the two. And once you find just the right balance, it's you can hit it out of the park. But finding that right balance is difficult, and it does take a lot of trial and error. And maybe shorten this, lengthen this, put emphasis on this syllable, whatever. So there's a lot of back and forth to get some of that right. I know. I know before in something that we did with Christian and Aaron before, where they had a lot of banter back and forth. It was getting the speed and the pace just right, because if it went too slow, it could be dull. But if you get kind of that Gilmore Girls rapid
Yes.
fire back and forth, it keeps you interested in what they're saying, and it also makes them seem a little bit more natural and a little bit funnier. So yeah, it's just a lot of trial and error, workshopping it, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the noir side of things comes in, because people forget how sort of
Mhm.
quick fire those were. Like the dialogue was so fast and sharp, and also quite cutting to each other. And if you're wanting to get that into a film like yours, then it kind of has to have a little bit element of that in as well. Then that people forget how they just think, oh, black and white films were like slow and boring, but
Mhm.
they just don't have a clue about the classic noirs and how they were so funny and sharp.
Yeah, even if you look at like His Girl Friday with Cary Grant, or even any of the Billy Wilder movies, just that back and forth, it's sharp. It's like it's almost musical. There's a certain tone and certain cadence to it. And if just one thing is off, the whole thing falls apart. But yeah, it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I, as well as writing this alongside alongside Devon Coleman and Erin Lilly,
Mm.
you also have a lot of other hats to wear, and that is indie filmmaking, I suppose. But like this time, were there more hats or the same amount of hats for you to wear as last time, or was it were you able to delegate a bit more?
It was. I was able to delegate a few things. So it was still super busy, but I was very glad that I didn't have to do the editing this time. We had Sharonda Harris who came in and did a great job. So I didn't have to worry about that, and she did a much better job than I would have, because I remember just agonizing over cuts and edits and everything on the first movie, and it's not my it's not my strong suit. I just don't have as much patience for it, I think. It's like I can do it. I just,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
like
no, I get that.
I've seen it in my head already. We filmed it. I don't want to have to do it all over again, you know?
Oh,
Um,
totally.
and so she did a really good job of that. And so that was one big piece that was taken off of me. And then the rest was probably about the same. Um, but that was a huge one though.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to make a short documentary at the moment, and I've got all the audio in place, and it's about 15 minutes long,
Mhm.
and the editing hours and hours each day. Um, like my neck is killing, my eyes are killing. I'm
Yeah.
just not enjoying the edit, even though, and I'm fed up of hearing my subject's voice that's in the documentary. I'm fed up of hearing cutting out me going because I'm like I just want it to be their voice, so I don't want to hear me breathe in in it. So it's like
I
so
remember
it's driving me bonkers.
I remember editing on the first one, and I I didn't mean it, but I would just like, just talking to myself, I would just get mean and
Yeah.
just to get through it, you know, and
No, I
just
get
like
that. I get that. Yeah,
scrolling
the
through it, just like,
nicest
shut up,
people, and you're
Aaron,
just
shut up,
like, yeah,
Christian, you know.
yeah, like
Um,
don't say or
yeah,
this, you know,
or you know,
yeah,
it's like I've heard them
yeah.
say the same line 30 times, and it's like, okay, I get it. Let's move on. Come on. So it's yeah, you kind of got to get through it. It's its own type of hell. You've got to have a lot of patience, and you've got to really have a calling, and that be your interest and your strong suit to enjoy it, to really enjoy it and do it well. And Sharon did a really good job.
You can understand that as soon as people start making money in either on the internet, on YouTube, or social media, or in film, as soon as they can pay for an editor, they do, and
Yeah.
you can totally understand why. Like you can see, and also the reason why people are always advertising for editors, because they
Mhm.
must, like, people don't want to do that forever.
Exactly.
Unless you're a superstar editor who gets to edit these like incredible films, or you have a real passion for it, it's your particular thing. It's often somebody going, right, yeah, I'll do this, and then that'll be my in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. But I mean, blimey, I wouldn't know where to start with an hour and a half or over. But it's hard enough with doing. I'm literally I've gone from 20 minutes down to about 15 minutes, cutting little bits, cutting little bits, cutting little bits. It's driving me crazy.
Mhm. And I mean, there are tools now that are supposed to help and make things like syncing the audio to the clips. There's some
Mm,
like plugins that'll, help match all that stuff up, but it's not 100%. So you're still left
yeah,
like an even bigger puzzle. Then it's like, what is this file? Why isn't it fitting? It should
yeah.
fit. What is it? So it just creates a whole other headache. And so yeah, I just don't have the patience.
Yeah. Was there something that, in terms of, so that's really been, that's great, and like you say, you've probably over the time between the films, being able to kind of go, right, these are things that I know I am the best at in our group, that I can do this, and these are the things where I need someone to come along and help out. Was anything from Mystery Science Theatre um, a factor in you changing anything? I know that we talked about you being a big fan of the show, and we both are, um, and it being a bit of a there's more positives than negatives. I think that came out of
Mhm.
our last conversation. But was there anything that came out of it where you went, like, oh, that's an actual thing that I'm going to change?
Yeah, there were some things like that. I think the biggest was not biting off more than we could chew. Just trying to scale some things back. So, in the first one we had a bar that was a former Pizza Hut that it was filled with supposed to be like a cantina, Star Wars cantina with all the monsters hanging out. And some of those are background extras that just have like a horn glued to their forehead or something. And it's like, we'll just make it work. It's like some of these characters are, they're going to be less monstrous than others. We're just trying to get by on a budget and making it work. And so I think that the description MST3K gave us was like if it was a detective movie filmed in a spirit Halloween or something. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. But that was one of the things that were like, okay, we're going to have just a handful of creatures or monsters and we're going to make sure they look good. And so we had like a ghoul, we've got Corky the demon, and then the wolf.
It looks great this time. All of the sort of the monster elements of things in this, I think, look really, really cool.
Thanks. We're really happy with the way things turned out. I was some things just kind of blown away by because I looking at it on camera or looking at it in person, and I'm like, there's a couple of things here and there we need to hide from looking at it in the camera, and I'm like, no, it's actually perfect. So it's it's just it That's comes great. Down to angles and lighting, So, but yeah, that was a
there's a bit of letting things go as well with I think we talked last time about how through your experience it kind of taught me a little bit of something about Mystery Science Theater as well, as how much of that is their edit of your film, like how much of the humor comes from their edit and like out of context stuff and missing certain bits out to make it play better for their purposes, which is essentially all comedic. And I think that for me was an interesting lesson. And because I have watched quite a lot of the films that are on the series, and some of them I like yours, for example, and quite a few actually. Star Crash is the one that jumps out, and Troll 2. But yours doesn't go with those because they're like very different. But like I love them without any irony. There's no irony, but like I guess that you taught me a little bit of something there about how their editing process, and was there part of that where you had to just kind of let go of that element and just go, right, we've actually got a lot more eyeballs on the film now because of this?
Because there are people that still don't realize that it's like a good 20-minute chunk and a whole supporting character that's cut out of the MS-23K version. And so when they find that out, they're like, oh, wait, that plot makes sense now. So like that. So it makes the movie look worse. But here, when we set out, we're like, we're going to make this wholeheartedly with as if the MS-3K thing never happened. Just, pure. We're not going to lean into like Birdemic style where Birdemic 2, where things are just amped up to be comedically bad, and then it's not even the humor isn't funny. It's like we are going to be making an actual movie, and if someone wants to laugh at it, that's up to them, but we're going to do our best and tell the story we want to tell, and so far everyone has really enjoyed it, best I can tell anyway. That was just kind of moving forward, just as we normally would. I get that as well, because I think that the worst thing people can do is lean into it and deliberately try and make a Mystery Science Theater movie like Samurai Cop 2 is unwatchable. Birdemic 2 and Birdemic 3 and I was talking to Darren Ewing from Troll 2 and we're doing a little project together, and he was saying that the sincerity of the first film and the trying to the playing of it straight and trying to do your best and make a good movie, you can't it wouldn't be that if you were making a sequel trying to do the same thing. Like a nod and a wink to the camera, it just doesn't work. The sincerity has to be there, and
I think this is actually, you could give this a completely different, like you could get rid of the Demon Squad side of it, and this would just work as a movie, independent of the first one.
Mhm.
And I just think it's, I think you chose the right tone from my point of view as a viewer. It was a bit of a sigh of relief with that, because I do always have that concern, like that someone is, people are clamoring for a sequel to something because they really enjoyed the silliness of it or the goofiness of it. But then the filmmaker goes, okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to do something really stupid. And yeah, that is not the case. I think for you as well, it's different, isn't it? Because like you say, there's massive swaths of the first film that weren't included, that I think maybe their process was different. Like looking at where they're going now with it, with the mic and Kevin coming back and doing this the old school way. I wonder if they would have had a different approach on it, or whether they wouldn't have even chose a Demon Squad in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because from what I mean, I don't know. I know they had a lot of time in the episode devoted to like the host segments, so that impacted the actual overall show runtime.
Yes.
So, and I think they were going for some more newer films, and it looks like the new Riff Tracks take on it is going more old school, and not. I don't think they have announced any like really new films. So I just think they're taking, I guess, different tastes, just going to different, trying to recapture some of the, I guess it was like the Sci-Fi Channel days.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going for. And like, it's funny, the things that we were talking about before about, your film and things like that, maybe they were a little, or just film in general, maybe when they were making these big cinematic segments in between with the different stars and singing and dancing and special effects and all because of spending a lot of money on it, they possibly were leaning into something that a very small percentage of their audience were actually into. A lot of them just wanted the riffs and the
that handmade feel, and I feel like something that our movie kind of has in common with MST3K is that handmade feel, because you can look at the old school days when Tom Servo's a gumball machine and all these recognizable pieces, and then one of our props in Tooth and Claw, the sphere that plays a big role is a hamster ball that we've repurposed and put all these different pieces onto and some lights onto, and a cool little doorway on the end of it. That's cheap, but it's different and cool, and it's very handmade, and it's supposed to look kind of handmade in that respect. So I think that's maybe something that we kind of had in common with that show.
Yeah, and that creativity sometimes is the biggest strength. Like the constraints are the strength. Thinking about things in a different way that other people don't have to do is sometimes what makes it so engaging. I've watched quite a few really low budget films recently, and I was like surprised by the fact that they tried something different script wise, or they hid something to make it look or you could see that they'd taped a camera to something and the movement of it was and I was just like, so creative, so interesting. I'd rather watch that than just a kind of nice, almost like those videos you can watch that are like 8 hours that you could just watch and go to sleep. Like a lot of
those,
like big movies some big movies feel a bit like that, where it's like they look great, but I remember them.
And I think a lot of people have kind of gotten tired of that. I mean, I think you can kind of see it with box office, where everything looks kind of like it's all on a green screen and there's nothing real. Even the clothes the actors wearing is digital, or what have you. And I think people are just trying to get back to something tangible that's a little more relatable. Because I mean, even if you like Marvel, when Marvel first started, Robert Downey Jr. was wearing a physical, suit for Iron Man, which then became a mocap CG thing, and now everything is a CG mask or helmet or whatever. That even by the in-universe rules doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, but it's just nothing is tangible, and being a kid watching that, I remember looking back at the Burton Keaton Batman movie or Superman, and like when I get home, I can find something, I can find some gloves and put them on and all this and kind of make my own and make my own gadgets. And you can't do that now. There's nothing that really replicates that kind of real world feel. And I actually had a message from someone on Instagram the other day that sent me, they made like a Nick Moon cosplay, and they're like, they said it looked really good. They said that one of the things they liked about the movie was that Nick Moon's tools and his arsenal, it's all, very handmade, and they can source parts from the thrift store or costume parts from the thrift store and make their own. And that's what they did. And it looked great. And I shared it with Christian, and he was like, day is made. Now I just need an action figure. I've got a cosplay. I just need an action figure. I can retire. So,
that is so good. That's funny. You've just predicted my question, which was like, often cult films have fans who enjoy them in very specific ways. Like, was that one of the most surprising audience reactions to your films? People doing cosplay, people dressing up, or have you had other experiences where people have kind of reached out to you and surprised you?
Yeah, we were lucky that the MST3K fans and the fan base that has kind of come up around Demon Squad, they are very supportive, very passionate, and they enjoy the movie on its own terms. They don't look at it ironically or anything. They actually watch the movie itself. And so I've had, I think back when MST3K, I think maybe season 13 or 14, they had like a Halloween costume contest. And so someone sent in a photo of them dressed as Nick Moon. So that was like the first time we saw a cosplay. And then somewhere over the years, someone sent me a link where someone had made a D&D campaign that was Demon Squad themed, going through the Nick Moon world and all of this based on Demon Squad. So that's the strangest I've ever seen. And then the latest was, I think it was last week when I got the cosplay photos that they tagged me in or sent me over. So that's really cool. That's encouraging, nice to see.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's what, I'd imagine when you start making films, that's the kind of thing that is your most hope for, is somebody to have that connection with it where they actually love it enough to play a game or dress up or interact with it. It's funny because it takes you back to being a kid. It's that we talked before about certain films. Like I just, as we were talking, I was thinking about when I was a kid, and I remember watching, I think it was Romancing the Stone, and I remember watching it and thinking how cool it was that they were just barreling through the jungle in like a Jeep. So I went and got a big cardboard box and put cardboard tires on it, and then I just threw myself down my stairs. And
that's awesome.
Like and I was just like, if I was making that film and somebody told me that a kid did that, number one, I'd be like, I hope you didn't injure yourself. But number two, I'd be like, oh man, that's so cool that you. And literally, I didn't know I was such a young kid. I didn't know what was going on. The romance part of it passed me by.
Yeah.
But the action, adventure, the banter, all that kind of stuff. And it must be really cool when people just say nice things about the movie.
Yeah. And I remember being a kid. I remember, I was a big fan of Batman 66 reruns. And being a kid, Robin was who my favorite was at that time, because he was most relatable. And I remember I took like a old Sprite or 7-Up or Mountain Dew bottle and cut it up. So and like duct taped the green pieces onto here. So I had like green armor and just like an old handkerchief or something that I made a mask out of. It looked nothing like colors or nothing like, but it worked for me. I knew what I was doing, and hanging off swing sets and pretending to be acrobatic. So I mean, stuff like that. I don't know if kids play like that anymore.
I don't know. I don't know, because like it's so creative. Again, it's because you don't have a lot of things to do. Like I remember watching the Robin Hood TV show and making little swords out of cardboard boxes and things. And like I think that, you know, like I heard an advert for a Star Wars Lego set, and it was like, and if you plug in this brick, it's the smart brick. It's a smart brick, and the smart brick will send you off to all these different places. And I was like, well, surely that's what your brain does. You know, like when I was building Lego Castle and my dog ran through it and smashed the castle to pieces, then that was a massive dragon, you know, that came.
Exactly. I remember, and also, you know, back in the day, we didn't have as many screens screaming at us and vying for attention. So I remember, you know, having time to just kind of be bored, have nothing to do, and just looking at something and seeing how it might look like something else, and then I could take it and make something out of it. I remember, you know, like a VHS tape that was broken, and you turn it over, and it's like the back of it kind of had eyes for the spindles, and the mouth looked kind of like a mouth. And so like, oh, I'm gonna go make a robot now. So, you know, stuff like that where it's sort of encouraged. And I just don't know if there's time in society anymore for that.
I hope so. I hope that there is like that kind of element, that creativity, because that's what creates filmmakers like yourself, you know, looking at something in a different way. It's essentially what you were doing with that VHS tape is what you're doing with movies. So yeah, it's really nice to hear that, and like hopefully other people will kind of see that and it'll inspire them to do the same. I think there's definitely some people now making really lo-fi, you know, films that don't need a lot of money, just need time and creativity, and hopefully we'll get to see more and more of that. And to kind of go back to the film in general, the good thing, I'm looking at things differently, so it is kind of linked. The film, or the world of the film, always hints at a much bigger supernatural ecosystem. Is there like a kind of rule book to this, you know, magic and monsters and things? Is there a kind of general thing, or is it like we'll get to that if we get to it, or you know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah, there's not really a big overarching like Bible for it or anything like that. It's basically goes down to pie in the sky. This is what would be great, but what is feasible economically, you know, financially, and practically. So it always, if I put something on paper, I'm going to be like, I'm locked into this, but I can't do it. And so it just ends up being, what can we do? So we'll kind of hint around at different things, a larger world or larger presence of these creatures. But we may just focus in on like one aspect or something. So, you know, there are ideas, there are things we'd definitely like to play with, but it just kind of comes down to what makes the most sense.
Totally. And I guess that goes back to what you were saying before about not biting off too much and trying to put too much on the screen, and learning that. So with that being said, if you're going to bring one more element to it, and bearing in mind that you have said you've got other ideas, I don't want to create spoilers, so please just tell me, mind your own business. But is there any like monsters or cryptids that you like to bring to this universe that you can just say yes there are and keep it?
There are a couple of if we have 3 rough drafts of web series episodes. If we're able to pull off a Kickstarter to make the series, it'll be 3 episodes with maybe some like little small vignettes in between or something, and each one has a different creature. One is kind of a new take or a new perspective on a classic creature. The second is a new creation that I have wanted to do something with for years now. And then the third is it's kind of a mix of an old and new creature, but so those 3 I'm really excited to kind of tell. And I think sort of an underlining theme there is kind of like misunderstood monsters, which I also really enjoy kind of looking at tales in folklore or regional legends or urban legends, and kind of finding a new way to tell their story or interpret that story. So kind of like the creature in Tooth and Claws, based on a local story, urban legend from 1971 of a wolf woman in Mobile that there were police sightings, police reports. There's a drawing in the newspaper from that time that was a caricature. If you Google Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama, you'll see it. It's hilarious. And so that was kind of the germination of the idea for the creature in this one. So, you know, finding a way to kind of shine a light on these stories and
particularly being local to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a real unique selling point that I've always thought with you is when we first spoke, you know, that it is, you know, kind of a region where there isn't a massive amount of mainstream films coming out of or you know, coming out of the area. So it's really like cool when you link your cultural identity, your local identity into the films. And that was something I think you maybe even said that to me right when we first spoke. And you know, and it's still there now at the heart. That's probably at the heart of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, 'cause there are things, I feel like at this point, something like Bigfoot's done to death, and things like that. There are so many ways you can do them, and I feel like they've probably all been kind of explored by now. But there are some of these weirder creatures, always like Mothman, always kind of stuck with me, where they're open to interpretation, and you can do more, and you're not like boxed into what people expect. And so this is sort of a build as a kind of a new take on a werewolf that just gets a little more complicated. So yeah, finding those stories is interesting because I get to learn a little bit more about some folklore and some storytelling and history from the area. And it also kind of usually sparks some kind of imaginative daydream or take of it leads me on a rabbit hole for new ideas, you know.
It's really it's great to hear you're so passionate about it, because I've been, since I've moved out here to Cumbria in the sort of middle of nowhere countryside Lake District, I've started collecting books on the supernatural in the areas, and that we lived not far from the most haunted castle in the UK, and there's been some really great things that I've read, the different paths and areas and things that have gone on and stuff that really quite inspiring from a folk horror and horror point of view. I'll have to share some with you and send you some pictures and some things, because it's just the other side of your coin, really, isn't it? It's like yours is over in Mobile, and mine's over in West Cumbria in the UK.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of cool stuff over there. Sometimes I'm sitting here like, you know, looking around for like weird stories, and I get disappointed. I'm like, well, you know, why isn't there anything weirder here? And, you know, you look over a place that's, you know, got all this history.
The grass is always weirder.
Yeah. There's always someplace weirder. So yeah, stuff like that is just always entertaining to me.
Yeah, and I was just wondering as well, like if I could throw some kind of crazy questions at you at the end, and then we can talk about where people can go and watch the film and make sure that we get lots of people to watch it. I've had loads and loads of people so far. You know, we've had about 120, 130 people watch already in the first hour of this, and normally it takes a while for people to kind of connect. So it's, you know, it's a good opportunity for us to really point people towards your film, which I really, really enjoyed. And people know I don't, you know, it has to be people that I like and films that I like. Those two things are really important for me on this channel. I don't promote things that I don't enjoy. And so I've got some crazy, ridiculous questions to ask you. So is there, well, okay, if Nick Moon existed in another film universe, where would you drop him into?
Does it have to be a specific genre, or it's just...
It can be anything at all. It could be Barney. No, maybe not Barney.
I think he could fit in most anywhere, but I feel like something like Chinatown, where it's got that real like 70s grit to it. I think somewhere in there is kind of where he'd be most at home.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. And if you were to point somebody towards any film doesn't have to be one of yours, any film at all, that if you're, like we were talking about when we both kind of got inspired by watching films or creativity, was there a film or a series or something that scared the heck out of you when you were really young that stays with you, that you would, you know, kind of point people towards as a really
Yeah, I
spooky?
think I have three that really stuck with me. One being I'm not 100% sure what it was. I think it may have been the intro to the new Twilight Zone in the 80s, where there's like a commercial for it on a Sunday afternoon, and it was just really disturbing. I remember the font, and I remember like some creepy music and creepy like kid talking or something that freaked me out. I remember running out of the room. The other would be Friday the 13th, the original. I remember catching on USA Network probably in early 90s, and I ended up watching the rest of it from under the bed. It freaked me out that much. And my grandmother had a like a old house in the woods that we would sometimes go to, and so that made me just terrified to go anywhere near the woods. I was already afraid of snakes, so now I was afraid of, you know, a backwoods masked killer. And then the other was Freddy, where I don't know what it was about Freddy. I know he became such a icon, and oddly children's icon too, but something about Freddy always bothered me, and I didn't know all the nitty gritty about him. It was just seeing him everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Sometimes it's
those,
just a poster or a picture, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it's just the face and the claws that always bothered me. But Jason was always, it seemed the most real. You know, it seemed like that could happen, and I go to the woods a lot, so
yeah,
that's the boogeyman.
Oh,
And there was
sure.
one episode of Salute Your Shorts that had, it was like Zeke the plumber. It was kind of, he was kind of Jason-y, that he would like plunge you with a plunger. It was a terrifying episode for a children's show, but
I'm aware of what that is. I don't think
yeah,
we got it. It's like Nickelodeon, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. He had like
Yeah,
a mask was like an old man. He had like a bandage on his nose, and it was just ridiculous, but it was terrifying for a
yeah.
kids show. But yeah, Jason was probably my number one fear.
I'd imagine you're not on your own there for sure. I've got Larry here, the horror cat dad. He's just put that Tales from the Dark Side series intro would creep him out. So yeah,
Yes.
that was
Yes, that one is still creepy.
and he was a fan of Salute Your Shorts as well. So there's quite a few people in the chat actually asking questions as well. We've got Ash's Antics. With Kelvin Jackson's asking you, who would win, Scarlet Witch or Dark Phoenix? I guess this is a magic question, so you're the expert on this.
I'm gonna say Scarlet Witch.
Oh, interesting. Because I was gonna
Yeah.
go Dark Phoenix, because I thought like at her absolute apex, she's just gonna rip worlds apart. But then again, I guess Scarlet Witch can do that too. So
Yeah, but I feel like Dark Phoenix has got more baggage with, and it ended up like destroying herself too. You know, it's
yeah,
just
true.
there's so
Everybody
much
goes.
power there. And then yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go Scarlet Witch.
Okay, okay. We might have to disagree on this one, I think, but hey,
Yeah.
it's okay. This is a good life lesson for us both. We can remain friends. So yeah, just people popping in like Kayla there, and so Kelvin and Ash's Antics and Horror Cat Dad, and just hundreds of people actually who have been watching, which is really really great. Thank
Thank
you
you
so much,
guys.
everyone who's tuned in. So if there's like, if someone watches Demon Squad Tooth and Claw, what do you hope? I'm off the silly questions now, by the way.
Okay.
What do you hope they take away from it?
I hope they take away a good time. I hope they are entertained and are interested to see more. So I just really hope they have a good time.
Awesome. That's really cool. And if people want to watch it in different places, so I can speak from a UK point of view, you can rent and buy from Amazon Prime. You can get it in HD, you can get it in SD on Amazon Prime in the UK, and you can also yeah, you can buy it as well as rent it from there. But in other territories or in your country, where can people
Yeah,
watch
it's
Demon?
Prime Video. I know, yeah, UK and US. I don't think it's in Canada for whatever reason.
Right.
But we also have it on DVD and Blu-ray region free through Kunaki, and Kunaki also has their own streamer that's region free. So it's streamable through them as well, and it's all linked on the Fighting Out Films website. If you go to fightingoutfilms.com, there's a big banner that says watch now, and you click that and it'll just show you the options.
Right.
And we're looking at getting it onto other platforms as well. I think there's a Tubi license, but I don't know when they're going to actually release it. It could be anytime. Don't tell me anything.
The Fighting Owl logo is so cool, by the way, and the new film when it opens up.
Thank you. Yeah, that has always been a battle to figure out what that should be. It's gone through, I think the first iteration looked like it was a children's book publisher, just text on screen. And then I was really happy with the way it turned out for this one.
I felt like I got a Watchmen vibe from this one.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I like that. That's what I liked. So it wasn't like directly, so don't don't come at us, Alan Moore. It had that kind of cool look to it, and I really enjoyed seeing that come up on the screen. I know that this has been a real challenge. We've talked since we had the last interview. There's been some real challenges getting this film made. It must feel really great to finally be telling people where they can go and watch it. That must feel awesome.
It is, yeah, because that's always a struggle. I know with the first one, it was, we shot it in 2015. It was finished, I think, into 2016, and didn't actually come out on DVD until I think 2019. So for some reason, it just, it took its dear sweet time. And so having this one out so quickly, have such a quick turnaround of basically a year and a half, is really nice to be done, because it gets stressful. Always having something hanging over your head. So it's nice to actually have it done and people can see it. And our Kickstarter backers, I was very pleased to be able to finally show them what they backed. And that's been very rewarding. We've gotten a lot of good response and feedback from them, and, getting a lot of positive reviews from reviewers has been nice to,
yeah, man, your reviews have been great. Yeah.
We're, there's always
really great reviews.
It's always 50-50 of what's going to happen there. And it's kind of nerve wracking waiting for them to come out. And so far they've all been really positive. So we're happy.
Yeah, the Film Threat review, there's loads of reviews I've read that are really, really good. So, you're getting good reviews on IMDb. And again, to get people to see it, I implore you, if you have IMDb, you have these things, go and give, watch the film and go and rate the film and get more eyes on it. Because it
helps.
It really does. And I want people to support independent film, but also, good people who make great films like yourself. So I really appreciate having this opportunity to talk to you. It's been so cool to continue this. Hopefully we'll be able to have you on again whenever you want. You can come on and talk about other things, like doesn't necessarily have to be when you've got a movie out. You're always welcome. The door is always open. I know that Horror Cat Dad Larry's just said he's going to go and check it out. I feel that this would be right up his street because knowing his taste, he's a big fan of subspecies series and things like that. Nice. And I know that there's. I'm not saying that this is similar, but there's definitely the kind of supernatural element there. So for sure. And he mentioned as well about a TV show called The Hitchhiker on USA. I don't remember.
I remember the name. I don't remember the show though, but I do remember the name.
Right. Oh well, yeah, Larry. If it has my recommendation, me and my friend Larry, who's the Horror Cat Dad, and our other friend Don, Night Owl Movie Talk. You love it, Night Owl Movie Talk, of course. We call ourselves 3BB, Three Blind Bitches. But he's got my seal of approval. So hopefully, if you get a few more people watching as well, if that means anything. And like I said, it's so cool because normally I watch a movie once and then there's a period of time between when I've watched it and then I interview someone. I thought for a change I would watch it again tonight just before we came on, just so it'd be fresh in my mind. And yeah, I don't want to put down the first film, but I definitely, because I like that one. Otherwise, I wouldn't have reached out to you in the first place. But I like this one better.
Yeah, and that's been the consensus, that everyone feels like it's a step up, an improvement, and that's great. And by now, I've seen it more times than I can count through the edits and everything. But when I do have to watch it, it's still, even for me, the worst critic it could ever get. It's an enjoyable watch, so that is rewarding in its own way, I guess, that it's not a chore to sit through when I have
No, I get that. It's like, it can be sometimes, seeing something so many times can take the fun out of it sometimes, but that's great to hear. So everybody knows now where to get hold of the film, where to see it. They just need to go out and do it now. Thomas, you're a gentleman, and it's been so great getting to know you. It's amazing how quickly time goes by. We've known each other quite a while.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, and it's great talking to you. It's really fun. I enjoy it.
Oh, cheers. Thank you. That means a lot. So guys, please do go and check out Demon Squad Tooth and Claw. It's available now in all good and some not so good streaming platforms. I don't know. What was it they say, in all good bookshops and some not so good bookshops or something. But just go and watch the movie and tell us what you think. Put some comments on here. Go to Fighting Owl on Instagram, on YouTube, and the website, and just reach out, because I know, like you say, it's cool when people let you know what they think about the movie and stuff. So
yeah, always happy to see people's reactions, and especially if they're making props and cosplays and that sort of stuff. That's always fun and rewarding. So that's it's kind of a nice warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, man, we need more of that at the moment, for sure. If you stay there, I can say thanks to you in person for being on the channel. I really appreciate it. And everybody, thank you so much. There's been so many people engaged with this interview already, which is just fantastic. Fantastic was what I was hoping, and hopefully, as more and more people get to watch it on demand, then we'll see lots of people saying, "Oh, I didn't know about Demon Squad Tooth and Claw," and now they do. So good night, everybody. How would I finish this? How shall I finish this in some sort of we will be seeing you in the not so distant future.
All right, thank you all.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.